Hey everyone, stop scrolling for just a second, because what I'm about to tell you could change how you or someone in your family gets paid by Social Security. Yes, it's that serious. And listen, if you skip ahead, you'll miss something important. Because at the very end of this video, I'm going to reveal the October 1st rule that could decide whether or not your benefits show up on time. So stay with me. Don't click away. This video may be the difference between being prepared or being caught off guard. Now here's the deal. New leadership is shaking things up at the Social Security Administration. Big service changes are rolling out in offices and online. Payments are going digital and paper checks are going away. And the Social Security Trust Fund? It's on the clock and running out faster than most people realize. But again, don't skip, because the deadline coming up on October 1st could directly affect you. Let's start with leadership. Right now, Frank Bignano is stepping in as the new Commissioner of Social Security. And he's not coming in quietly. He's bringing in a completely new team with fresh faces and fresh strategies. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. So what? Just more Washington names, more DC insiders. But let me stop you right there, because this actually matters. Leadership isn't just a title. It sets the culture for the entire Social Security Administration. And the SSA is massive. We're talking about an agency that serves nearly 70 million Americans, retirees, widows, children, and people with disabilities. That's 1 out of every 5 people in this country. If the leadership is weak, the cracks show immediately. If the leadership is strong, the entire system runs smoother. Think about it like this. When the top is disorganized, your experience at the bottom gets worse. That's why you wait on hold for 45 minutes, only to be told to call back tomorrow. That's why your online account locks you out and takes weeks to reset. That's why your check might show up late. It all flows downhill. But when leadership gets it right, your phone call gets answered faster. Your claim doesn't get lost in a pile of paperwork. Your direct deposit hits exactly when it should. And this new team isn't just symbolic. They're already being positioned to tackle real problems. Frank Bignano himself is known as a straight shooter, a policy guy who's been vocal about modernizing outdated systems. His focus is stability and trust. Because remember, confidence in Social Security is shaky right now. People need to believe the system will actually be there when they need it. Alongside him is Chad Poe, stepping in as Chief of Staff and Risk Officer. His job is critical. He's basically the early warning system. If there's fraud, he's the one making sure it doesn't spiral out of control. If there's a policy change that could accidentally delay payments, he's supposed to catch it before it hits you. Think of him as the person standing guard, watching for cracks in the system before they turn into full-blown disasters. Then there's Karen Glenn, the chief actuary. She's the one running the numbers behind the curtain, figuring out exactly how long the Social Security Trust Fund can last, how much COLA increases should be, and what the future looks like for retirees. Her job isn't glamorous, but it's crucial. Every cost of living adjustment you get, every solvency projection you hear in the news, it comes from her office. And finally, Nicholas Pine, the Chief Communications Officer. Now this might sound like just a PR role, but think about it. How many times have seniors been blindsided by a new rule or deadline simply because they didn't know it was coming? His job is to make sure that doesn't happen again. If the October 1st payment shift catches people off guard, that's on him. If information isn't getting out, if people feel left in the dark, he's the one accountable. So yes, these are names and titles from Washington, but the ripple effect is direct. If they succeed, you feel it in your daily life. Your calls get shorter, your benefits get more secure, your questions actually get answered. If they fail, you feel that too, and you pay the price. Here's the team stepping in. Chad Poe is Chief of Staff and Risk Officer. His job? Stop mistakes before they cost you money. He's the fraud prevention guy. Karen Glenn is Chief Actuary. She's the numbers expert, forecasting how long the trust fund lasts and calculating cost of living raises. And Nicholas Pine is Chief Communications Officer. His role is to make sure information actually reaches people instead of leaving. Seniors in the dark. Fancy titles, yes. But these decisions ripple down to your daily life. For years, people have complained about Social Security service. And let's be honest, you've probably lived through it yourself. Endless phone wait times that stretch on forever, where you sit there listening to the same scratchy hold music, wondering if anyone will ever pick up. Local offices that feel more like brick walls than customer service centers, where you leave with more questions than you walked in with. And the website? It always seemed to crash right when you needed it most. People lost faith in the system. Not because the money wasn't there, but because the service felt broken. But here's the surprising part. That's starting to change. Slowly, but noticeably. Let's start with phones. Just last year, the National SSA hotline could keep you waiting for 30, sometimes even 40 minutes before a human voice came on the line. Imagine being 75 years old, holding the phone to your ear that whole time just to ask why your check is late. But today, those wait times have dropped dramatically, to around 6 to 8 minutes on average. That might not sound like a miracle, but for millions of people, it feels like one. If you've ever been stuck on that line, listening to the same robotic, "Your call is important to us," you know exactly how big of a deal this is. Now, let's talk about local offices. For decades, they operated under a rigid, outdated system, where workers had little authority. You'd bring them your problem, maybe a missing payment, maybe a paperwork error, and the answer was almost always the same. "We'll have to send this up the chain," which really meant months of waiting and no guarantee of a fix. But now, that culture is shifting. Workers at local field offices are being given more power, more discretion, and more tools to resolve issues right there, on the spot. That means fewer dead ends. That means less bureaucracy. That means when you walk in with a problem, you might actually walk out with a solution. And finally, online. The My Social Security portal has been a nightmare for years. Always down for scheduled maintenance, crashing during peak hours, forcing millions of seniors who aren't tech-savvy to give up in frustration. But now, that portal is available 24/7, no more downtime. No more, try again later. If you're awake at 2 a.m., worried about your next deposit, you can log in, check your benefits, and see your information instantly. For seniors, night owls, shift workers, or anyone who just wants peace of mind, that change is massive. These might sound like small fixes in the grand scheme of a trillion-dollar program, but here's the truth. For real people, these are the fixes that matter most. They're the difference between stress and relief, between waiting in the dark and finally having answers, between losing trust in the system and believing it might just be turning a corner. Are these perfect fixes? Not yet. But they're real improvements and proof that SSA is finally being dragged into the 21st century. Quick reminder, don't skip ahead, because in a few minutes, I'll break down the October 1st deadline that could directly impact your next payment. Now, let's talk about the big change, payments. Starting September 30th, paper checks for Social Security and disability are ending, for nearly everyone. If you're already on direct deposit or using the Direct Express debit card, good news, you're fine. Nothing changes. But for the 500,000 people, less than 1% of beneficiaries, still getting a paper check in the mail each month, this is a game changer. Why is this happening? Cost savings. Paper checks cost about 50 cents each. Direct deposits cost about 15 cents. Multiply that across millions of payments and it saves taxpayers over $2 million a year. Security, too. Paper checks are 16 times more likely to be lost or stolen. Sounds smart, right? But here's the problem. What about the 92-year-old, in a rural town, no smartphone, no internet, just walking to the mailbox once a month? For them, this isn't a simple switch. That's why the SSA is allowing waivers for people aged 90 or older, those living in areas without real banking access, or people with serious disabilities. But don't wait for SSA to find you. If this applies to you or someone you know, call them directly. Because starting October 1, if you haven't made the switch, your benefits could be delayed. Now let's zoom out. According to the 2025 Trustees Report, Social Security's trust funds are set to run short by 2034. If nothing is done, benefits would automatically be cut by about 20 to 23%. That's one out of every $5 gone, from retirees, widows, and people with disabilities. Congress doesn't want that on their watch, but the clock is ticking. One new idea being discussed? A $1.5 trillion investment fund, seeded with $300 billion a year for 5 years, invested for long-term growth with profits used to keep Social Security solvent. It's bold, it's different. But will lawmakers agree? That's the million-dollar question. Now let's talk about cost of living adjustments, or COLA. For 2025, the COLA is set at 2.5%. For 2026, projections are around 2.6 to 2.7%. On paper, that looks like a steady raise. But in real life? Go buy groceries or refill a prescription, you know prices are rising faster. That's why there's a push for a minimum 3% COLA every year. A safety net, so seniors don't fall behind during years of low inflation. Will it pass? We'll see. But one thing's clear. Without stronger COLAs, benefits aren't keeping pace with reality. So here's what you need to do. If you're still on paper checks, switch now. Go to godirect.gov or call SSA directly. Don't wait until the last second. Create your My Social Security account. It takes 10 minutes, and it keeps you updated. Stay informed. These debates about trust funds and COLAs may sound distant, but they land directly in your wallet. And remember, the October 1st rule is not optional. Miss it, and you could miss your payment. So let's step back. Social Security is being pushed into the modern age, whether we're ready or not. Some changes feel good. Shorter phone waits, 24/7 website access. Others feel painful, the end of paper checks, the threat of future cuts. But here's the truth. The system has to evolve. And the more prepared you are, the smoother this transition will be. Now I want to hear from you. Do you feel optimistic about these changes, or do you think they make life harder for seniors? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if this video helped you, hit subscribe so you don't miss future updates. I'll keep breaking down every deadline, every rule, and every change that affects your benefits. Because knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. Stay informed, stay prepared, and don't forget, October 1st is closer than you think.